English breakfast.
Good morning, Amsterdam. It's 9 minutes past 8, and we have Petra Fisher in the studio with us. Welcome, Petra.
Hi, Kathy. Hi, Matt.
Cool. And Petra Fisher is a local social networking guru. Now, how is that? How did you get to know so much about all these relatively new parts of our lives?
Basically just by getting stuck into it, trial and error, and I shouldn't say this in this social media age, but reading lots of books about it.
That's true. Cool. And what were you doing before you became the social media guru?
Well, actually, it's always been social. Started out with social work and now social media, and this pretty much been like a AAA career spanning Amsterdam, Australia, Amsterdam.
Yeah. But yeah, I see that totally fits with the background in social work and then going into social networking. So, people person, I think. And so you run your own consultancy, is that right?
Yeah, I'm still working part-time with an NGO supporting tenants in the broadest sense and do a lot of training there, but social media is really my kind of thing, so I thought I'd better start my own business and yeah. Exciting.
Now, I've been following you on Twitter, and that's one of the... We'll go on to that in a minute, like who to follow on Twitter and stuff like that. But you do post incredibly useful things like glossaries, social networking terms, like for applicable to all sorts. Like, so you cover not just it's LinkedIn. There's so many flipping things in there. LinkedIn, Facebook, blogging, Twitter. There's all sorts of other ones as well, aren't there? I mean, because you've got the whole... what's that thing? Foursquare.
Yeah, Foursquare, location-based. And also, in terms of sharing content as well, there's loads of different platforms you can share content across. And also bookmarking.
Yeah.
All of that kind of thing.
Oh, my God. So, convince us that, because I know a few people who are not really into social networking stuff. So, for example, like LinkedIn. How necessary is it? How essential do you think it is in this working world to be on LinkedIn?
Okay, well, it all depends what you want to get out of it. I reckon social media, it's like media are not social. You know, newspapers aren't social, computers aren't social. It's how you use them. So LinkedIn is the ultimate tool to do networking. To give you a brief example, like generally you say something, you might say it to your neighbour and they might say it to someone else, and through word of mouth, you know, something might come out of it. Whereas you can just multiply this by thousands once you know how to set up LinkedIn. Most people only see it as enter the details and that's it. But once you really understand how to use it, how to do networking with LinkedIn, you've just got so many connections. How do I get here?
Yeah, I mean, one of the differences I found with LinkedIn, because say, for example, with Facebook, I'll only become friends with people who I know. Whereas on LinkedIn, I find myself connecting to people I've never met. Like, because they work with maybe someone that I used to work with, or they've seen a recommendation, or they're interested in your work and things like that, or just because they're looking to gain as many connections as possible. And the way it works is you can do that. And I find myself, it goes against my nature to do it, but then actually it can only make your network bigger and stuff. So, and on LinkedIn, you know, I don't put anything that's too private, so it's less risky, I think.
It's also choices you make. Look, LinkedIn, if you read their policy and agreement, it still says you should actually know people before you connect with them. Obviously, there's no way they can actually check that. So
yeah,
it is a network. So I used it like the other day. I needed a trainer because I had to run 4 workshops and I'm only one person, so I needed 3 more trainers. So I asked in my network, hey, does anyone know anyone who's really good and willing to do this for a very tiny little fee, you know? And so one of my connections knew other people that I would have never found. And it's so much better than Yellow Pages, because the Yellow Pages, you know nothing about it. But now, because someone I know, like one of my first degree connections, recommends some of their connections, which are only second degree to me, they've already got like a stamp of approval, because someone I know who doesn't want to let me down says, oh, you need these people, they're cool.
Yeah.
And that's just, so it's not actually your connections, it's their networks where the real power of LinkedIn is actually networks. Yeah.
So it does work. Online networking really does work, especially for things like that, when you maybe have something specific that people can get involved in, you can do a shout out. And no, that sounds kind of good. And how effective do you think it is for job hunting?
Oh, I think it could be very effective, because through LinkedIn you can actually expose your expertise. So it's not so much looking for work, it's make sure you're being found. When I left my last job, there was this point in time where I applied for a job, and then they rang me and said, yeah, we'd like to you. And I said, let me have a day to think about it. And then at this one point in time, when I was like, yes, I'm going to take this job. I was the only person in the whole wide world that knew of this job vacancy about to come up, being my job. Then when I accepted, there was 3 more people that knew. Then I told my team. So before there was even a job, there was 60 people knowing about it, that if they knew someone that might be good for it. Now imagine doing this online, like knowing someone in your network and starting your news. So just on LinkedIn, you have these options to comment or reply or share. And if I was to comment on someone of your updates, that exposes me to your whole network. So if I do so, not by saying, I want a job, although you should say it in your headline because that's the place to be, but by showing your expertise, just respond when people have a question, when people say something, you've got something to add to it, so that before you're even looking for a job, people already think of you, you're top of mind. That's really the power of LinkedIn.
And you're right, so you might not be thinking of looking for a job, but it's all about reputation building, I guess, and they think, oh, that was a sharp button in the pack. She's like commenting on maybe certain things and with colleagues, and maybe, I don't know, helping someone out with a question or something, and then it just builds your reputation. You're right. And then maybe a few years down the line when you are looking for a job, someone will remember you for being the bright spark that you are.
That's it.
Cool.
So you'd recommend getting involved in discussions and commenting as a way of getting top of mind of people you want to network with, rather than going directly to say, let's connect?
Yeah, because, just when you say let's connect, well, at least, replace the LinkedIn invite by a personal note and let people know why you'd like to connect. I have people wanting to connect to me that I've never met, and I will accept them because of my business. It's good for me to have those connections. But generally, let people know why you'd like to connect, where you've met, or, you and I connected.
I'm naughty, hardly ever do that.
But you asked me, so the group feature of LinkedIn is where you can get exposure to lots of people that are not part of your network. And so by responding to discussions or even starting discussions, people get to know you, and then they might send you a connect request, and that's all right because, you've sort of started networking already. But it's a good way to get exposure in a broad sense.
In your experience, like training individuals and companies in the Netherlands, how much do you agree with this statement that this was in the news a year ago? There was some research. Dutch members of the business-oriented networking site LinkedIn would do well to strip a number of cliches out of their personal profiles, the LinkedIn organisation said. So that's Dutch members of LinkedIn. In particular, Dutch users are prone to describe themselves as innovative, dynamic and a team player. Extensive experience and proven track record are common cliches. So why do you think they've picked out the Dutch as using cliches? Because I hadn't really noticed that. I mean, do you see any truth in that or not really?
I think it's actually you, Kathy, that picked out the Dutch. Because when you look at the LinkedIn blog, where it came from, they also then listed and say, well, creative is most overused by Australians, Canadians, Germans, Dutch, UK people in US. Whereas multinational is the most overused cliche in Brazil and effective in India. But it's like your normal resume or application letter, Good team player, la-di-da. But why are you a good team player,
Yeah.
But also don't get too creative because people do searches and they search for keywords. So
that's true.
Make sure that, if you've got a really fancy job title, just think about the work you're doing and what's the ordinary job title, because that's what people will search for.
That's a good tip. Yeah.
Cool. I never knew the Aussies like to see themselves as creative. That's cool.
And I remember Casper Hopp. Do you remember the recruiter?
Yes.
He was talking about CVs and LinkedIn profiles being very generic and using words which are just a bit kind of like you're saying, cliche.
Yeah, I suppose you could use the words in order to get found, but maybe kind of in the context, make the context more interesting and more specific, so that it'll get you in the search results, but it won't just be boring, same old cliche. Oh, we're getting useful here. Okay, I think we're going to go to a song. We're going to go back and talk more about blogging and Twitter and all sorts of things like that. And this is a song that Petra has brought in. It's called The Whitlams. That's by The Whitlams. It's lovely. We're back in a minute.